It's true that to make a better world today, we have to change everything. Every little thing has to be changed. It's not one silver bullet. So when you look at all the things that have to be changed, you have people who say, it's impossible. But of course it's possible. Of course, make it once at a time, one thing after the other. And some things have to be changed in the industry, others in the agriculture, others in the energy sector, in the mobility. And instead of having silos like this, you need ecosystems where you put all the actors together. And if you do that, you will have a result. But today, it's not what we do. And the frustration that I feel that we could do much better than what we do is really what is the drive for me for my action. I will never stop until I see that people start to move and start to go into the right direction.
Every dream in history was considered impossible until it had been accomplished. Behind each achievement, explorers have invented the future by going beyond the frontiers of certainties. They have broken the rules, challenging common assumptions to discover new solutions. Today, solving the environmental crisis seems out of reach. We need the same pioneering spirit that has in the past allowed mankind to achieve the impossible. This is how we will find the solutions to change the world. Bertrand Piccard, the visionary behind Solar Impulse, wanted to demonstrate the incredible potential of renewable energies and clean technologies. Solar Impulse was built to carry this message around the world.
Hello, Solar Pulse. Hello, Captain Piccard. I am inspired by your pioneering spirit.
You know, Mr. Secretary General, if an airplane like Solar Impulse can fly day and night without fuel, the world, of course, can be much cleaner.
Hotel India Bravo, turning final, 02 right.
More than an achievement in the history of aviation, Solar Impulse has made an achievement in the history of energy. Let's take it further!
What can be done in the sky can be done on the ground. Replacing old and polluting infrastructure by modern and efficient technologies is logical as much as ecological. Convinced the protection of the environment will become a reality only if it's economically viable, Bertrand Piccard has launched the second phase of his action, committing the Solar Impulse Foundation to identify 1,000 solutions that can protect the environment in a profitable way. Developed by startups and corporates, these solutions reduce pollution and improve efficiency in the fields of water, energy, construction, mobility, industry, and agriculture for a better quality of life. Assessed by independent experts and labeled by the Solar Impulse Foundation, they represent the market opportunity of the century, generating jobs and clean growth. In the near future, Bertrand Piccard will travel around the world again to present this unique selection of solutions with one goal: encourage governments, businesses, and institutions to go beyond compromise and set more ambitious environmental targets and energy policies. Here again, the spirit of exploration has a role to play in achieving what many people still consider impossible. And you can be a part of it.
Thank you. Welcome to the big interview, Bertrand Piccard. Welcome to be, and thank you for being with us. The stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Good morning to everyone. I'm going to tell you why this project of flying around the world in a solar-powered airplane has changed completely my vision of climate action and protection of the environment. Can you imagine? You fly alone in your cockpit for several days and several nights over oceans all around the world. It's the sun who gives the entire energy you need to stay in the sky. And when you look left and right, you have big propellers turning, and you have no noise, no pollution, no fuel, and you can fly as long as you want. Well, I tell you, in the beginning, I thought I was in the future. I thought it was science fiction, but not at all. That's the present. This is what you can do today with the current technologies available. And that was, for me, a big change, because I understand that if I am not in the future, but in the present, it means that the rest of the world is in the past. The rest of the world is completely in the past, with thermal engines that have an outcome of maximum 27%. It means you waste 3/4 of the energy you put in your tank, when my electric motors had an efficiency of 97%. I was losing almost nothing. The world of the past with badly insulated buildings, outdated lighting, heating, cooling systems, inefficient industrial processes, dirty sources of fuel with fossil energy. Are we proud of that? We use technologies that have been invented 120 years ago, at the beginning of the oil era, and we find it normal. I think we're like a fish in the water who doesn't know he's wet. We are in the world of the past, and we don't notice that it's the past. And this is basically why we are in trouble today. The question is not that we live too well, that we have too much comfort, that we have too much mobility. The problem is that everything we do is done with old, outdated, inefficient technologies that waste energy, that destroy the environment. And this is what has to change. So basically what we have to do is to replace everything we have in our world with modern and efficient technologies. Is it possible or not? Well, if it's too expensive, nobody will do it. But imagine that it's economically attractive. Then it's the biggest market opportunity of the century. Then you can finally reconcile ecology and economy. And this is what I wanted to test. And this is what you heard in the film. Let's take it further. Because success is not just a moment that you enjoy. Success should be a step on which you walk in order to be more efficient, more influential, more credible, more performant, and do better. And this is why the Solar Impulse Foundation has launched this challenge of identifying more than 1,000 solutions that could help the world to become modern, creating jobs and making industrial profit. In the beginning, of course, everybody told us it's completely impossible because ecology is sacrificial and expensive. Industry is profitable, but it's dirty. So you cannot find solutions that reconcile the both. Well, I never listen when people tell me it's impossible. Otherwise, we do nothing. So just answer, maybe it's difficult, maybe you don't know how to do it, but never accept that it's impossible. So we launched our foundation on this path We reached the 1,000 solutions. Today we are at 1,600 technical solutions, plus 200 solutions that are behavioral, that are legislative, that means political, and they're all available. And I love that slide here because you see every little word. That's a system, a product, a process, a device, a material that can be used today to reduce our impact on the environment, to open new markets, to bring new business opportunities in a clean and efficient way. So when you hear that the only way to save the world is to degrow the economy, it's not attractive. Maybe, ideally speaking, it's true, but nobody will do it. And since years that we hear that we have to degrow the economy, reduce mobility, reduce comfort, reduce consumption, what do we see? More CO2 in the atmosphere, more pollution, less biodiversity, depletion of natural resources. So of course it doesn't work. And this is important to change the narrative and to say that solutions exist, that we can develop new ways of doing, that make it cleaner and more efficient, and if it's more efficient, you reduce the waste and you increase the profit margin. So I'm sorry, maybe to be a bit down to earth as a pilot and an explorer and speak about economic profitability, but if we forget that part, we will not have the industry and the political world using the solutions, going on the track of climate action, and really improving the quality of life in this world. We need both. And maybe this was lacking in the past. Excitement. And this is why I decided now to launch a new project that could be seen as a flagship for climate action. A way to restore hope. A way to tell to people, you are not the victims of the past. You are the actors of the future, and especially the young generations today. They believe there's no hope. They believe there's no future. Some of them don't want to have children because of the uncertainty of the future. They don't want to go to school because they think they're losing their time if there is no future for the world. How can we accept that? We have to restore hope, and hope comes from solutions. Solutions allow action, but you need enthusiasm and excitement to run these actions. And this is why I think that we have to show today that the current solutions available can achieve what I like to call the ultimate flight around the world, non-stop, zero emission. When I did it around the world non-stop with a balloon, I burned 3.7 tons of liquid propane. It was not clean. When I flew around the world with Solar Impulse, it was zero emission, but there were 16 stopovers. And nobody has ever done non-stop zero emission. So this is what we are trying to do with my partner, Raphael Dinelli. The plane is under construction. It will look like this. It is using liquid hydrogen, green hydrogen, of course, provided by renewable sources of energy. And you have to keep it liquid at minus 253 degrees, almost the absolute zero. So there's a lot of research, a lot of development. We're working with partners like Syensco, who is bringing all the materials to do the construction of the plane, to have the revolutionary hydrogen tanks. We have Airbus helping us. We have Ariane Group helping us. And we want to make it really available for everybody. It's not just a symbolic flight like Solar Impulse was. It's a way to demonstrate that the hydrogen industry can become desirable. Desirable. You know, you have people who say, it will never happen. You will never have a hydrogen industry because hydrogen is too expensive, because you have to replace all the airplanes. You have to replace all the energy system. You have to change the airports. You have to change the cars, the trucks, everything. Well, it's not the first time that we change everything. 120 years ago, we had horses and carriage, and it was replaced by cars and trucks. Remember the first mobile phones? It was a suitcase that costed $15,000. It was a niche for rich people. Today, we all have one in the pocket. Remember photovoltaic? 25 years ago, it was 40 times more expensive than today. Everybody thought it's an anecdote. What has changed? We have reached the critical mass. The critical mass is when the industry becomes desirable, you have enough production, enough consumption, in order to drop the price. And this is what we have to show for hydrogen. This is what we need today if we need a clean fuel. So this project is not a dream. I'm showing you a plane that is not yet completely built, but which is under construction. We have achieved about 40% of the hull of the plane. We hope to make the first test flights next year, and around the world, non-stop zero emission by 2028. We think that pioneering spirit is the main message from a project like that. What is pioneering spirit? What is exploration? Is when you look at the status quo and you decide to destroy the paradigms, destroy the certitudes, destroy the habits, and do something different. And I believe if we want to be successful, to finally have a better quality of life on Earth, this is what we have to do everywhere. We have to do it for ecology, we have to do it for energy, but we also have to do it regarding the social inequalities, regarding the governance of this world that is a disaster, social issues that are morally unacceptable. There are so many things where we need this pioneering spirit and this explorer's spirit. So this is why I'm just going, before we do the Q&A with Emiliano and you, show you a short film about this new project, Climate Impulse. And I will just ask you during this film to think inside yourself, how can I also be an explorer? How can I also be a pioneer in my life? How can I contribute locally or globally to make quality of life better on Earth, to inspire, to have people saying nothing is impossible as long as we have passion and human values?
What if we could change the world? What if impossible today could be possible tomorrow?
The time for action is now. The time to implement solutions is here. Meet Bertrand Piccard and Raphaël Dinelli, pioneers of sustainable innovation. Together with their team, they are embarking on an extraordinary mission.
Flying around the world in a hydrogen-powered airplane with zero emissions. Now they're building their way to the future.
This is Climate Impulse. More than a flight, it is an exploration feat set to revolutionize aviation.
To prove that decarbonizing the skies is not just a dream, but a reality. If they can make it happen up there,
We can make it happen everywhere.
be the change.
Be the impulse.
Thank you very much, Bertrand Piccard. Thank you very much. There couldn't have been a better way to start this day at the big interview. Please have a seat, and maybe we can start our conversation. As mentioned by Luca, our editor-in-chief, if anyone from the audience who has a question for Bertrand, please you can scan the QR code you can see on the screen and send them to us. If we have 5 minutes at the end of the conversation, we will share with Bertrand with great pleasure. So, Bertrand, you were talking about the narrative. So, that is important to change the sustainability narrative. But practically, how we can do this, and even from the words we use like clean technology, green technology. Is a change necessary?
The change is mandatory because since 50 years, we have not managed to protect the environment by using the old narrative. Green, this is linked to a political party on the left, which means that no political party in the center or the right will agree to do anything green. Decarbonization, it's understood as something difficult, expensive, and no government or no corporation will believe that it has to go into decarbonization. So what do we need? We need to speak of clean instead of green. We need to speak of modernization instead of decarbonization, because the real problem is that we're in the past, as I was saying before. So if we modernize our world to make it more efficient, to need less energy to do more outcome, to go into circular economy, to stop to waste money, energy, natural resources and everything, we will be modern, and decarbonization will be a logical consequence of this modernization. And when we say that we have to do that for the next generations because the ice will melt, the sea will rise by 2100, who's going to do a sacrifice today for something that will happen in 75 years? Not a lot of people, unfortunately. So we have to show that it's a benefit for our current generation right now. And you know, I'm a psychiatrist, and I've seen that people mostly, especially in the political and industrial world, they're not inspired by compassion and respect of the environment. They're motivated by profit, economic growth, and job creation. And if you tell them that ecology is an obstacle for that, they will put ecology aside exactly as it is done today when science and ecology is under attack by the new American administration, but also a lot of other countries and a lot of political parties, because they feel threatened by the old narrative. This is why we have to tell all the people who speak about climate change as the Chinese hoax, to tell them it's not a Chinese hoax, it's an opportunity to have a cleaner and more efficient and more profitable economy and industry, regardless of climate change. Even if climate change did not exist, it would be logical as much as ecological. It would make sense to go into clean technologies, renewable energies. Don't forget that solar energy is the cheapest energy available today. So we have to change this narrative completely. We have to imagine that we speak to a climate change denier and bring all the arguments to convince him. If you manage to do that, you can convince everybody.
I totally agree with you, of course, and I think that starting from the narrative is a very important thing, but at the same time, so reality is complex, and when we talk about economic issues, there are some, the question is really hard to face, because I'm thinking about the geopolitical question, and for example, we see what's happening between US and Ukraine, like the US is asking Ukraine for rare earth in exchange for military support, or other issues that are related to how climate change will drive more migration for the future. So how does geopolitics complicate the path to sustainability?
We are paying today the stupid and short-term behavior that Europe and America had for decades. We have rare earth in Europe. We have rare earth in America. But it was a market of 6.5 billion. So at the scale of the world, not so big. So the Americans and the Europeans have thought it was much more profitable to stop the extraction in the Western world and give the extraction to the Chinese and buy it from them. But the Chinese are much more clever people than we are. And instead of only making the rare earth industry, they took all the sector, not just the rare earth, but everything you do with them, which is a sector of 650 billion, 100 times more. And now they own all the sector and all the wealth going around it. We were so short-sighted, you know. We want to export our pollution, export our industry to other countries instead of doing it in a profitable way, in a socially acceptable way, in an ecologically acceptable way. And we would have done it much better if we had kept the industry in Europe and America.
Thank you. It's very important because this, your answer, it's connected with another talk we will have this afternoon together with the Assessore Cappello from Milan and Francesca Bria from UCL London. And we will talk also about a project called Eurostack, which is a tentative, an effort from from Europe to have a more wise approach to this, to build an industrial ecosystem that works and that are more wiser than the one we have now. And I just want to go back to your previous mission, the solar-powered plan you used 10 years ago to flew around the world. And I want to ask you, looking back, how many of the technologies you had on board that time have actually made it to the market in everyday use?
Yeah, a lot of technologies. And this was interesting because in the beginning, people thought, wow, that's just an adventure that has no meaning. But it's completely wrong. Just on the technologies, we had the encapsulation films from Solvay that were allowing the horizontal rays to be captured into the cells. This has been commercialized. The polyurethane insulation foam from Covestro, it has been commercialized. The way to build the plane with carbon fiber, it was a revolutionary technology coming from the boat industry, from a shipyard, and ocean racing boats, and America's Cup boat. Now it is used for airplanes. And it's so important to make airplanes lighter. You know, if a long-haul airplane is 20% lighter, it is 100 million tons less CO2 emissions during his lifetime. And now the same technologies from solar impulse are used. And just to name a few, well, brushless, sensorless motors, the best batteries, the best battery management system. Today, André Borschberg, who was my partner on Solar Impulse, has launched a startup called H55, where all the battery management system of Solar Impulse is installed on training airplanes, two-seater airplanes, 100% electric, that are sold for airports who want to train pilots without disturbing the neighborhood. There is no noise, there is no pollution, and it is cheaper than using an airplane with fuel. So you see, it's really a change that we need to accompany, we need to push much more.
So it is possible.
Absolutely.
So let's go deeper in some technical aspect of your next mission. So the Climate Impulse aircraft uses liquid hydrogen stored at extremely low temperatures to power its engines. So can you explain in simple terms how it works, how this technology works in such a long flight? What are the difficulties you are trying to solve?
You take electricity provided by solar panels, hydroelectricity or wind turbines. You put this electricity in the water to electrolyze the water and split the water into hydrogen and oxygen. You keep the hydrogen, you make it liquid at minus 253 degrees, and you put it in the tanks. And then, during the flight, you have a little bit of this hydrogen evaporating. It's called the boil-off. And the boil-off goes through a fuel cell. And in the fuel cell, the hydrogen with the oxygen of the air makes water again and electricity. And the electricity is running the motors in order to fly with zero emission. But you can do that for trains, you can do that for boats, for everything that is too heavy to carry batteries. Because for cars, it's not relevant to put hydrogen. It's much more efficient to have batteries instead of hydrogen. But for everything that's heavy, hydrogen has a future. And also hydrogen is very important if you want to make clean steel and clean fertilizers. So it's also important for the industry. And today, hydrogen is produced by fractioning the molecules of natural gas, of methane. So you keep the hydrogen and you release the carbon, which is not a clean way to do. So we really need to go into green hydrogen to make it efficient and clean.
And you were saying that you are already partnering with some companies in developing in the development of this climate impulse initiative. And I would like to, because you are looking for other partners, you are looking also, and I just want to ask you, why for companies, institution, or research center, we are in a university, it could be a great opportunity to share this project, share the music, contact you and tell you, okay, why for them could be an opportunity, and then for everyone could be an opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity for the industry and for the corporates because there's a market at the end. ScienceCo is working with us because there's a market for the membranes for fuel cells, for liquid hydrogen tanks, for the carbon fibers for structures of everything that has to be lighter. But we also work with the Office Chérifien des Phosphates, OCP, which is the big Moroccan industry for phosphates. They want to diversify into hydrogen. We work with the University Mohammed VI Polytechnic, UM6P in Morocco, because it's the door open for education in Africa. We work with Breitling, of course, but Breitling, it's also a friendship story because they support me since 33 years in everything I'm doing. But it's true that today we have solved 67% of the budget, and we still need 33% of the budget in order to run the educational program, run the operations, so we're still looking for some sponsors. But at this stage, having signed 67% of the budget, that's very encouraging, so we can really work and move ahead.
So please, let's contact Bertrand and Solar Impulse Foundation if you want to be part of this mission. So, and we at Wired, we were looking at the evolution.
Yeah, that's very kind of you, Emiliano.
Of course, it's a promise. And I'd like to show you, you were quoting that before. I want to show you a tweet of Donald Trump where he called the climate change a Chinese hoax, like you were saying before. And I want to ask you how the imagine is that when someone in power denies climate change, and should we be worried more from about leader himself or about the thousands of people who support this view?
This is really the proof that the old narrative has not worked. If you say that you have to protect the environment by reducing the economy, reducing mobility, reducing the industry, you have everybody against you. And this is something that was a huge mistake in the past. So now you have all the industry and the politic who is against ecology, who is against climate change. And they even attack the science, who is proving that climate change exists and is made by humans, because they prefer to shoot at the messenger rather than accepting the message. But the message is threatening the American economy if you remain with the old narrative. But if you say, look, we're not speaking of reducing anything, we're speaking of making more profit, of having new business markets, new business opportunities, because efficiency is an industry. You have a company like Schneider Electric, which is a big global company. Everything they do is about efficiency. They sell efficiency. It's a business to sell efficiency. If you go into renewables, of course, without getting everything from China, but also producing in Europe and America, you create local energy that is much cheaper. For a country like Italy, for Switzerland, where I come from, for France, we have no production of fossil fuel. We have to buy everything from abroad. If you take the money that is needed to import the fuel and the gas in 1 year and you put it on renewables, it's much more profitable because at the end of the year, you have no more fuel, it's burned. But you still have the facility, the power plants, with wind, with hydroelectricity, with solar. So we have to give a business case out of it. And this is what we do with the Solar Impulse Foundation. We have 1,600 examples of how you make more money in a clean way than in a dirty way.
Just one, there are some questions from the audience, but I want just to ask you two things really quicker. We've seen many protests from the younger generation, Friday for the Future, Extinction Rebellion, and so on. But also in Europe, we were looking at seeing a post from Donald Trump, but also in Europe is thinking to switching back from the stop of petrol cars into 2035. So do you consider this is a failure as a setback for Greta Thunberg's generation?
Well, today, if we change the mindset of the politicians, we can have new legal frame that can encourage the transition between the old polluting systems to the new clean and efficient systems. They exist, but they are not used. This is what we have to understand. And it's true that you still have some dirty technologies and you still have some expensive ecology. You know, this is everything that protects the environment. This is everything that is profitable. We have to look at the intersection between the two. What is at the same time ecological and profitable? And we have to focus at that point. If you continue to promote things that are expensive, it won't work. If you continue to promote things that are dirty, it won't work. But the intersection is growing and growing. But it will not happen if the political world is not pushing our world to be more efficient. That means to obtain more with less, have more profit but maybe less revenue, which is absolutely possible. So you don't need to degrow the economy. You increase the profit by saving and by wasting less. So if you bring together the governments, the corporations, you will give access to the public to the technology, the systems, the products that the public would like to have. I'm sure nobody in this room is happy to pollute. But if you don't give the solutions to the public in order to pollute less, we're obliged to pollute. We're obliged to do bad. And this is the responsibility of the government. We have regulations for hygiene, for health, for education, for taxes, for security. We have regulations for everything. So it's not a bad word. It's not an insult to say that we also need regulations to be more efficient, to be cleaner, and to use these profitable solutions that will be excellent for the economy and for the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bertrand. One last question, then I'll move to the question from our audience. A personal note. I just want to ask you one more question, because I have the cover of a book about your family. So it's important legacy. So I want to show to our audience this book published in France. And so maybe someone will publish it in Italy soon, I hope.
Yeah, I would love to have an Italian publisher, because I have some of my books translated in Italy. The Ultima Grande Avventure, that was for the balloon flight, Cambiare Quota, which is my book about philosophy of life. All this has been published in Italy, so I would love this one to be published.
Yeah, these are some images from this book. It's a very interesting book. And I want to ask you, what was like growing up in such a unique family? So your grandfather, your father, how did you make the transition from being a psychiatric to be to psychiatry, from psychiatry to sustainability?
I had two examples and inspiration. One was my father, who inspired me to become an explorer of the outer world. And I met, thanks to him, Charles Lindbergh, Chuck Yeager, astronauts from the early American space program, and they really inspired me to go beyond the obvious. But I also had the inspiration of my mother. You know, people forget that I also have a mother. It's not only the inspiration of my father. And my mother was extremely interested in Oriental spirituality, philosophy, psychology. And she gave me the wish to also explore the inner world. And that's why I became a psychiatrist. But psychiatrist, what is it? It's an explorer of the inner world, and the pilot is the explorer of the outer world. It goes very well together.
Beautiful. So we need to connect this both sides. And the question from the audience, then our time is over. Please, can I see the question on the screen here?
Yeah, I read the first question. I love it.
Can I have the question on the screen, please? Posso avere la domanda sullo schermo, per favore? So, what keeps you awake at night? What is the one a major challenge, obstacle you see today which prevents your vision?
The inertia, the fear of the unknown, the paralyzers that people have because they hate to change. It's true that to make a better world today, we have to change everything. Every little thing has to be changed. It's not one silver bullet. So when you look at all the things that have to be changed, you have people who say, it's impossible. But of course it's possible. Of course, make it once at a time, one thing after the other. And some things have to be changed in the industry, others in the agriculture, others in the energy sector, in the mobility. And instead of having silos like this, you need ecosystems where you put all the actors together. And if you do that, you will have a result. But today it's not what we do. And the frustration that I feel that we could do much better than what we do is really what is the drive for me for my action. I will never stop until I see that people start to move and start to go into the right direction.
Thank you very much, Bertrand Piccard, for this very inspiring and forward-looking conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.